Hi, I'm Marie. Welcome to Marie's Kitchen. I'm so glad you're back. Today we're going to make a bittersweet chocolate tart. This tart is so elegant, it is decadent, it is impressive, looks straight out of a restaurant or some fancy bakery, but you will not believe how easy it is to make and how few ingredients are involved. I really can't wait to share this one with you. Let's get started. So bittersweet chocolate tart, what do you need? You need cookies. Okay, here's Oreos, a big pile of Oreos. If you don't have Oreos or want to use them, you can use something like chocolate Teddy Grahams will work. We happen to have a few cases of Girl Scout cookies that didn't get sold, so we have Thin Mints. Those would be delicious in this. You could also use like a gingerbread for a different flavor, or a shortbread. So very flexible on the crust. You can also use gluten-free. I've used gluten-free. They're like Teddy Grahams, but they're the Annie's Bunnies. They have gluten-free snickerdoodle flavor, and they work great as a crust. I'm gonna go ahead and use Oreos, and I've got them in here in my food processor. Then we're gonna add 5 tablespoons of melted or softened butter, and just pop those in with the Oreos. Only thing with this recipe that you kind of need to be careful about is when you're melting the butter in the microwave. I always forget about it, and then it explodes in the microwave and there's butter everywhere. So don't heat up the butter too much or it will be all over your microwave. So now we're going to process the cookies in the butter on high. Okay, great. You kind of want to check and see, are there any big pieces? If there's big pieces in there, you might do a little more. The big pieces, they're not a big deal. They'll just kind of be harder to cut through when you go to cut the tart later. So you want some smaller pieces, pretty well ground up for the crust. So we'll just take out the blade so I don't slice my fingers off, and then dump the cookie and butter mixture in here. Now, if it were me, I might just get a spoon and eat this mixture, because melted butter and ground up Oreos is incredible. It smells incredible. It smells so good. And I love this because you can make this with kids. There's no raw eggs you have to worry about. They can sample the dough. It's easy. There's no delicate pastry dough to deal with. This is just some cookies and some butter. Okay, so we have this pressed in to the tart pan. And now we're going to move this to a baking sheet and bake at 350 for just until set, about 10 to 12 minutes. Some people do use this unbaked. They'll just put the chocolate right on top, and instead of baking, they'll freeze it. That works as well. It'll be a little softer on the bottom. I prefer to bake it to get a little crisper crust, but you really could do this either way. You do not have to bake this. You could freeze it. So we have the cookie crust in the tart pan. We're gonna put it on a baking sheet and pop that in the oven. I use a baking sheet just because the bottom of the tart does have a removable bottom, so it could leak a little butter. I've got the oven preheated to 350 degrees, and we'll pop it in there for about 10 to 12 minutes. While the crust is baking, let's get started on the filling. For the filling, what do you need? Butter, heavy cream, and 8 ounces chocolate. So easy. We're gonna add a pinch of salt, maybe a splash of vanilla. You can add a little sprinkle of cinnamon if you want, or possibly some orange zest. So you can get creative with the filling, but basically, as you can see, it is so simple. So to melt the chocolate for the filling, we're gonna heat the cream and butter in a saucepan, then take it off the heat, and we'll add our 8 ounces bittersweet chocolate. So we're using indirect heat to melt the chocolate. You don't wanna use direct heat directly on the fire, because that can burn the chocolate. Chocolate burns very easily, and if you do burn it, you pretty much have to start over. So the 2 important things to remember for this dish, oh, there's my crust, it's ready. Let's grab that. Okay, here is the crust. That is done. We'll just let that cool over here. Doesn't look much different than when it went in, it's just a little crisper. So that was really, really easy. One thing to remember when you're making this dish is you don't want to start the filling until your crust is done. And the reason is you don't want to have to melt your chocolate twice. So we have our crust ready, then we'll heat up the cream and butter, add the chocolate, melt the chocolate, and then pour it directly into the crust. So you don't want to be in a situation where you have all your chocolate melted and then your crust isn't ready, and so you're going to have to try to melt the chocolate again. That is difficult. So to avoid that situation, have the crust ready before you start the filling. Let's get started on our filling. Okay, so for the filling, I'm just going to cut this into a couple of tablespoons, and then we'll pour our heavy cream into the pot. Then we'll add our butter, 1/4 cup of butter. Stir that up a little bit. We're just gonna let that melt. And I'll add a pinch of salt, just to enhance the flavors of the chocolate. Then I think I'll also add a little bit of vanilla or Mexican vanilla. This is optional. And you can add cinnamon too, would be lovely. Or even, you know what would be really good here? Some instant coffee. A little hint of coffee flavor would be so good in this tart. So we've got the filling heating up. Then we'll add our bittersweet chocolate and pour it into the filling, and that is done. For the chocolate, I'm using some semi-sweet chocolate. It's 56%. You can use something even darker if you like. Fine, I'm just gonna break it up into pieces. It'll melt a little faster. If you don't have a baking bar, you can also use chocolate chips. Chocolate chips may take a little bit longer to melt just because their shape is designed not to melt, but you can certainly use them, and I have before. So this recipe is just so flexible. As soon as the butter is melted and the cream is hot, we'll take that off the fire and mix in our chocolate. Okay, so the butter is melted and the cream is hot. So we can take this off the fire, move this over to a hot pad, and then we'll just add our chocolate and stir it in, and it will melt just from the residual heat. Oh my gosh, it smells so good. It's cream and vanilla, yum. We'll just drop our chocolate pieces in there. Stir that up until it melts. And then we have our filling. And this is such a rich tart. You can see from the cream and the butter and the chocolate, you really don't need a lot for each person. So this tart can serve probably up to 8 to 10 people. Just take a small slice, add some whipped cream, maybe some berries, and it will serve quite a few people. We're just gonna keep stirring the chocolate until it is melted and very smooth. This looks great, we're almost there. And there we go. This is lovely, thick, rich, melted chocolate. Looks so good. The next step, you just pour it into the crust. So easy. Here is our crust that we baked in the oven for about 10 to 12 minutes. Then we will pour our chocolate filling right into that crust, and that is done. You just chill for 4 hours and it is ready to serve. Super easy. Now we'll just pour the chocolate right into the tart pan. There you go, just pour that right in, wipe out the bottom, and that is your chocolate tart. You can use the back of the spoon to spread it around. Now this goes in the refrigerator for 4 hours and it's ready to serve. While our tart is chilling, I do have one I made yesterday, so I want to show you how to pop it out of the tart pan and serve it up with some berries. To pop it out, you'll just want to take it out of the refrigerator and let it warm up a tiny bit. That will make it a little easier to press out of the pan. So we're just going to gently press the bottom of the pan up with your fingers while you're holding the edge here, and press that up till the tart pops out. There we go. And we'll set that on a cake plate. So here's our tart all set up, and then to cut it, you can just run your knife under some warm water, and that will give you nice clean slices. Just gonna cut right in, and again, they don't need to be too big. This is very rich. So we'll cut a slice there and slice here. That actually is a pretty big slice. That one will be for me. And then you can see the crust in there is just gorgeous, the chocolate, and we'll set that on our plate. Put some berries, maybe some whipped cream, and this is ready to serve. It looks like it came straight out of a restaurant. Amazing, gorgeous chocolate tart in just a few easy steps. I think I'll have a taste. Wish you were here. A little taste of this. The crust is kind of crisp. That's what I love, the crisp against the silky smooth chocolate. This is so delicious. Oh my goodness. It's so good. That filling is so smooth and chocolatey, and the crust is nice and crispy. It is just divine. Thanks so much for joining us on Marie's Kitchen. Today we made a bittersweet chocolate tart with a crisp cookie crust. We served it with some berries and maybe some whipped cream. This is such a decadent and elegant recipe, and yet still so simple. Anyone can do it. I really hope you try it. If you do, be sure to let me know in the comments. Also, be sure to like and subscribe so we can stay in touch. Got lots more recipes coming, and all of these recipes are going to be just like this, where you can build some confidence in the kitchen and then feel comfortable sharing food with people that you love. Because that's really what this is about. It's about gathering, celebrating, enjoying, being with people that you love. It's about making memories and traditions and having celebrations and putting smiles on people's faces. It's just so rewarding, and I really want that for you. From my kitchen to yours, thank you. Nine-inch fluted tart pan. Fluted just means it has these little ruffles along the edges, and the tart pan has a removable bottom. So what we'll do in the end is, after we put the cookie crust in and the filling and chill it, we'll just pop up this bottom, and then you just have the ruffled edge along the edge of the tart, and it looks gorgeous. It's definitely a good investment if you want to make this dessert, and I really think you're going to want to, because it is so easy, and it's just always, people love it. It's delicious.